and Mark, I'll start with you both. I know you tell us early on in the film just about the lengthy gestation process, of course, behind this, but I'm curious if you could take us back, Laura, just even to the initial impulse 20 years ago to make a film about Psy, and Mark, I know you worked with Psy, and so can you talk about how it came together, the arts of persuasion that were applied to bringing this to fruition?
Yeah, for me, in 2004, I was preparing to go to Iraq to document what was happening in this occupation war that I hated so much. And about a month before I traveled there was when Psy's Abu Ghraib story broke. And, you know, I already knew it was horrible but when you saw those photographs, it was kind of, I think anyone who remembers that was kind of shattering to see what was happening. And then when I finished that film, the person I contacted was Psy, and I asked to meet with him. And I said, I want to make a film about you because of the importance of investigative journalism and Psy's body of work, obviously. And at that point, I mean, we were really living in, it's kind of a really nightmarish moment for the media, which, you know, this country has experienced many, current probably included, where, you know, they were just following whatever the government was saying, and Psy was the real lone voice in dissent of that. So that was 2005. So yeah, it took a while, but he agreed.
My relationship with Psy goes way, way back, and I've made a couple of films with him. Some of the parts of it are in this film. And I always knew that he was a great subject. As a reporter, he's somebody I just spent time with, and I realized the nature of the work he was doing, how exceptional it was, the kind of energy that he brought to it. And I knew there was a film there ready to be made, but getting Psy to commit to something like that, that's a whole other matter. And I think, as Laura alludes to it, this film has gone on for a while, and I think the potential of the film, the meaning of the film, has evolved. And as we approached the recent years, I think it became clearer to both Laura and I that Psy's story had a real relevance to the situation now. And so getting Psy to agree to it was a tricky proposition. He routinely says no to just about everything, and that films and about every other thing you can think of. So I think it was a matter of Laura and I coming together. We had different experiences with him, and we just pushed him, and he finally relented, and I think couldn't be happier with the results.
Psy, do you remember, was there a moment that, okay, changed your mind, or did it happen gradually, or?
Are you kidding? Do I remember things like that? I could tell you something, but I have no, Laura, Mark, I worked with Mark, and we've done three things that we had a lot of fun, and it was good to do. Laura was a different case because Mark's a great filmmaker, and Laura has something that she does that just is totally remarkable. And a lot of it, you know, getting me to talk about my dead father, I mean, come on, and all that stuff. And so it was a great combination because we had reporting, and we had somebody there was an incredibly strong moral point to this lady that's ineluctable. You can't find that very often. And so it just worked. I mean,
However long it took, the film, of course, could not feel more aptly timed for this moment. Laura, you alluded to this. It's Psy, in the film, you talk so much about the limitations of daily journalism and institutional journalism as you experienced them then, and now I'm just curious, kind of from where you sit now, what do you, it's a big question, but what is your take on the present state of American journalism, the tendency to self-censor, to capitulate with the Trump administration, you know, with its regular assaults on the First Amendment? What do you have to say about all that?
How much time do we have?
She said, "How much time do we have?" I'm not looking for a condo in Portugal where I can get a visa, although, you know, this guy's different because he's got a cruelty to him and a lack of intelligence and a vengeance that's been there for his life, throughout life. He's a terribly unattractive, sort of horrible man as a person, and now he's president. And I think we've got to realize that this is going to be a struggle for, you know, the issue is the Constitution and its limits. And there are serious problems in the Constitution and its limits, and people have been thinking about that. There's a group run by a former legislator that I know that's been working for years on the loopholes. There's a lot of loopholes in the we saw it in 2000 in the last election when he almost all the vice president had to do was not accept the results, and then we were in chaos. So there's a lot of loopholes. It's not so much him. He's got this henchman Voight, who's been runs the OMB, which is a terrifying job. The failure of Congress, the failure of the Republicans. I don't think the Founding Fathers ever thought they would ever have that many politicians who didn't have enough guts to stand up, or a Supreme Court that I'm afraid is gonna make us all very pissed off. You know, I don't think we're gonna get much beyond 6-3 on a lot of these issues. So it's gonna be very awful, very hard, and it's gonna be terrifying for the press. They're chewing up the press right now. They just put somebody in CBS who has a lot of strong views, much stronger than the press is telling you. And it's all problematical. You've got the Ellisons and the money. And so I think the problems for this country are going to be so much bad and so much worse in the short term. And I think that's part of the reason this picture, this thing they did, this amazing thing they did, I didn't think anybody could do what they did with the story. That's why I didn't want to do it. But they did. But no, it's just, you know, there's a limit. And this part of the reason the picture, the movie, the documentary, obviously this is so obvious, but it's part of the reason it makes the point is because it's talking about a bad time that we're having again. And so I think it's going to get worse. I think, I don't think something's going to have to break. And I don't know what it is. He's not in good health. I know that. I've been, to put it mildly. And there's things. One of the problems I have is there's some things I'm told I can't without hurting people. So, but the conditions in there are much worse in that White House than you know. You go ahead.
And I just want to say that, I mean, what Cy just alluded to is that this present moment this is not a vacuum. This is part of a history, a long history in this country. And a long history of cycles of impunity, of mass atrocities that are committed and nobody's held accountable. And the lens of this film is half a century through Cy's work, and it precedes that. But this is, I think, what we're trying to say is that, I mean, George W. Bush should be in prison right now, you know, and if we had prosecuted the criminals after, you know, 9/11 who tortured people, who occupied countries, who led to the deaths of, you know, over 1 million people, if those people had been held accountable, we might not be where we are today.
To follow up on something that Cy said about the conditions right now, I think one of the most troubling things is the way in which potential sources are being intimidated. And I think the atmosphere that is present today would not probably have brought this woman next to me. I don't think she would have come forward in an environment like we have today. And it took a kind of heroic effort on her part to reveal what she knew to Cy. But I have serious doubts that today there are people that would be willing to take that risk.
Mark, it won't make a difference is the point. It won't make the difference that it did then than it does. It won't. It's a different time now.
It has to make a difference.
Well, let's hope so.
Exactly.
Let's hope so.
It has to make a difference. I mean, we can't just say it's just not going to make a difference. Then why don't we just go bury ourselves? I mean, somebody. It took me a very long time to speak up. My husband didn't know about this until I met with this crew at my house. I was afraid to tell anyone. Not that my husband would ever hurt me. I wasn't sure he'd understand.
He's here tonight.
He's here. It wasn't easy, but at the time, there wasn't a question about what I had to do. It's just the way I was raised. It was the moral thing to do. It was the right thing to do. I wasn't sure how to do something, because many of us aren't. I wish I was as brave as these folks and as talented that I could make a difference like Cy and like Laura and Mark. But I had limited opportunity, and I did reach out to my sister, who was way more politically active than I was. She called, and we got introduced and got together. And I just knew it was the right thing to do, and I would do it again. If I did it now, I would stay anonymous because I don't trust any of those people in Washington, but I trust these people.
Thank
So
you,
thank
Camille.
you for including me.
Olivia and Yoni, I want to bring you into the conversation as well. As Olivia, as Cy said at the beginning, the movie is such an archival feat in ways that we notice and ways that we may not notice. Can you give even just a little sense of the research effort on your part and just making sure that the record of this film holds up, because it's so important that it does? Yeah.
I worked on it for, I think, a little over 2.5 years. It was quite the feat. All of the boxes that you saw in some of the shots were labeled by me in the process of going through Cy's things and understanding him through an archival lens. And I mean, there were probably around 7,000 archival assets that were pulled for the project. But beyond just that kind of research, just the research to understand what I was even trying to research was such an unbelievable undertaking for me. And yeah, it's kind of insane to watch it for 2 hours and be like, I did a lot of that.
Yeah, Olivia collaborated with us on All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, a film about Nan. And when I told her what I was thinking about, she actually didn't know Cy and went down a rabbit hole and was up all night. And then she said, I have to do this film, and has been working on the film ever since.
You did it too well. You found stuff I thought we buried. I actually met with my two sons, and I spent time, a couple weekends, going through files. And I have to tell you, pulling out some stuff, there's some names and other stuff. And then one morning, I realized we missed something, and you had it. That's when I went nuts. Said,
Yes, that was me, by the way.
Well, the difference now is that there's no justice system, that there's no cabinet. He's done such a job of corrupting the government and turning it into a vassal for himself that it's a lot more intimidating. It's a lot more. I mean, I don't know if I would have asked her to do something with this kind of, knowing that if you did it, you would possibly be prosecuted. So there's a tremendous amount of, it's going to be very difficult now. That doesn't mean we don't do it. It's just going to be very, very difficult now because he has so much control. And because I think these people have effectively, Project 2025, they shredded the Constitution. because there are loopholes in it. More and more we see, as we see. And a unitary president is now in power. So this is a very dark time, very dark time.
Yoni, I want to come back to you just for a second. Like Olivia, you worked on All the Beauty and the Bloodshed with Laura as well. Just putting this whole project together, I mean, what were some of the challenges on your end in terms of telling the story? Yeah.
I think one of the challenges is one of the strengths, which is the film captures, with All the Beauty, also decades and decades of personal history and U.S. history and world history. And I think that that's part of the power of the film. It takes years of research, dozens of people who are in this audience who worked on the film in all kinds of ways. But it tells us, I think, stories and lessons and echoes that matter. And I'm going to take Camille's side on this, that we have to do something, and we can't pretend, we can't think that there's nothing we can do. And the film shows that, I think, from Ron Ridenhour exposing the My Lai massacre to Camille Sapio, and to people today who will do the same thing, and journalists today who will do the same thing. And I think that that's one of the lessons that hopefully people take away from the film.
We are unfortunately almost at time, but I want to, if I may, I'm going to borrow a very good question that Laura had asked during the process, and turn it on you, Sai. I mean, given everything that you've just outlined, and even though I know you haven't been in, working in a newsroom for some time, but if you were running a newsroom now, what's one thing you would do differently
You mean
that is not being done under the current conditions as you describe them? Yeah.
That's a hell of a question, because it's very daunting now. It's not that I worked at the New York Times, and I think the New York Times would still publish what you could. It's got its problems. I always think so. But it still is a paper of record. The Wall Street Journal still does a very good job. I think television has sort of fallen away. Network television is useless now, much less of a player. It's interesting that this film connected so much because of the lacuna, you might say, in the coverage. But it's still there. There's much more. There's more blogging. There's more podcasts. There's more ways to get information out. We need people to have more courage inside, is one of the things. I've always dealt with people who have courage on the inside. I think the thing we're all going to have to be feeling a sense of what's going on in Gaza, and the inability of America to do something about it is, to me, so shaming. And we had the same thing happen in Iraq. We destroyed a society there too, but it's just the problems today seem to be so much acute because they cut to the core of what America is about. When you fix all the cabinets with people that are going to be, prostitutes for you and pimps for you, when you do that and you fire people with incompetence, and then you begin attacking people in the Constitution. There was the Attorney General had a disgraceful performance the other day, and no matter how many, you can't really cover it like a straight story. It's just it's a national disgrace that this person can talk to that way to senators and behave that way and get away with it. Just have an objective story about it. There has to be more heat, more passion. I don't know. Well, yes. That's.
We need another Seymour Hersh.
No,
We
but Amy Davidson, who I adore, who I work with, she said, you have to. I knew that these guys were going to change the world by doing what they did in Iraq. I knew that. How did I know it? I just knew it. I knew it was going to, and the number of people who died in the aftermath of all of that is this staggering. kind of then you walk away from it and you say, well, okay, that happened. But I don't think we think about it enough. And I don't think we think about it. I mean, look, this is New York, and you know, I'm not sure I would talk. Yes, I probably would say the same way, but I would probably not get through the appearance if I were somewhere in Magaland. But right now in California, if you're a person of color, they're stopping you and asking for your papers. And we all know what happened, and you know, we know what happened from 33 on in Germany. And they're asking for papers that Americans of color or don't look like they're like the rest of us, right? The white people. The feds are and the state using the police forces he does now in states that are Democrat. I want you to think about something. I want you to think about the possibility if before the elections next year in Congress, and when there's 3 or 4 or 5 states that might be dicey, I want you to think about the capability of this government to declare a national crisis, an emergency crisis. He's got that. We passed that. The Congress passed that law because of nuclear power. I want you to think of the potential they could stop elections if it looks bad in Wisconsin, if it looks like they're not going to get a plurality in the House. And that's what worries me about. I'm probably going to write about it more. I know more about it than I'm saying. But I mean, I know a lot more about it I'm saying. But there's a mechanism in the Senate going into states like California and Portland, Oregon. He's setting a precedent for stopping. And before a congressional election, which they may lose the House, what will they do? What are they capable of doing? That's what I'm thinking about now. They are capable of an awful lot of things. So we have an incredible constitutional crisis, and I just think I wish forget about television. I just write them off. That's all. I watch ball games and let it go. But I mean, I'm sorry. That's where I'm at. But the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal, and there are not many good papers left. They have an obligation, I think, to start really thinking about the implications of using the federal police in the way they want in states where they're not wanted. And I think the implications for that for the next election are terrifying. In other words, they've learned their lesson. They didn't do it 3-4 years ago when they tried, again, because the vice president actually had the sense to not go along with them and discount who knows what would have happened if he'd been a MAGA guy at that moment. And so
one of the other challenges of working on the film was keeping it to 2 hours.
No, the other challenge is you haven't really seen it yet, folks. He's got a lot left. He's got a lot of weapons left. And you're seeing some of them now. This is a weapon that he's using. It's a weapon that can disrupt elections in a way that he couldn't stop it before. So I think the peril is much greater than ever with this man and the people behind him. And that's all I'm saying.
Everyone has to find their courage and do something. Do something. Work towards the election. Do something.
Unfortunately, we are at time and we have to end this, even though the film gives us nothing but things to think and talk about. And thank you for the film. Thank you, Cy, for your work.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being
Justin.
here.
Thank you all for coming.